Hello everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Helen. I'm a makeup artist based in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. If you would like to see how I achieved this beautiful look on my gorgeous clients, please make sure you watch till the end. So to start with, I cleanse her face with a cotton pad and micellar, Garnier Micellar water, just to be sure I get a clean canvas to work with. And I went ahead to spray down her face to return hydration to her skin with my Badescu spray. So to further hydrate her skin, I use the Olay Hydrating Vitamin-C Moisturizer generously all over her skin, all over her face, using my flat brush to massage that in gently. This is another hydrating moisturizer, just to be sure that I get a very soft skin to work on, and that's the e.l.f. Hydrating Moisturizer, and I'm using the same flat brush to massage that into her skin. So for a primer, I use the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer all over her face, using the same flat brush and massaging that in with a very soft and gentle pressure. So for her T-zones, I went ahead to use a mattifying primer because my client has an oily skin. So I'm applying that on her forehead and nose bridge, her chin, just to be sure those parts, those areas of her face does not get oily with time. So for her foundation shade, I use the Morphe and Covergirl foundation in shade Rich 30 and Warm Honey. I'll be sure to list everything down in the description box below. And I went ahead to spray that down just to set a foundation with the Morphe and Jeffree Star Set and Refresh Mist. So for contour, I use the L'Oreal Stick Foundation in shade Chestnut. It's a sweet and warm brown shade just to contour her nose bridge and her cheeks. Please, if you're still watching up to this point and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you. So to just blend in the contour shade and a foundation into each other, I went back into that same beauty sponge that I used for foundation all over the contour part of her face. So for cream blush, I used the Fenty blush in shade Daiquiri Dip, and I made sure to use another part of my beauty sponge to blend that flat into her skin. So to further blend the contour and the blush into each other, I went back with the parts of the beauty sponge that I used for a contour shade, just in between the two shades. So for highlighter, I used the L'Oreal concealer in shade 410 to highlight her forehead, her under eyes and her chin, and I went back with my beauty sponge to blend that out flat into her skin because I'll still be going over it with a lighter shade of concealer, just to further highlight those parts of her face. So this is the lighter shade of the concealer, and this is the Morphe concealer in shade medium 12, and I'm using this just to further highlight her face because the first shade I used is kind of close to her skin shade, but because I want these areas of her face to pop, I went in with a lighter shade of concealer to achieve that effect. So now I'm just making sure to blend everything well. And now for the contoured part of her face, I'll be setting it with a darker shade of powder, and I use the MAC Studio Fix powder in shade NW45 to achieve that using an angled brush. And I make sure to go with a very little quantity per time. So to set our face, I used two shades of Tarte powder, I think shade Deep, and I can't remember the other shade now, but I'll make sure to list it in the description box. And I went all over everywhere. So now I'm blending out the concealer that has been sitting under her eyes and I went straight in with my setting powder. I used the Merak setting powder in shade ginger with a sprinkle of curry just to be sure I get the right balance for our skin tone to set that. And I make sure to go with a little quantity per time because it's easier to build up the product like that, just to be sure you don't get a patchy and heavy result. And I'll be repeating the same process just for the other side, for a chin and a forehead. And I went over the brows a little just to further mattify the brow, to be sure the brow doesn't get oily, because the brow does that sometimes. So now I'm sculpting the nose so I can get that snatched effect with the same setting powder. And now I'm pronouncing our blush a little. So I just dust off the excess powder on our forehead and our chin, leaving out the one under our eyes to catch our fallouts. So for the eyeshadow base, I use the Milk eyeshadow base, and for a transition color, I use the brown shade in the Juvia Zulu palette. For a transition color, I use the fluffy round brush to achieve that. For the main color, I use the pink shade in the Juvia's Place Masquerade eyeshadow palette, and I use a flat and fluffy brush to achieve that as well. I'm just repeating the same process on this eye. So for the outer corners of our eyes, I mixed a black eyeshadow with a dark brown eyeshadow, and I used the small brush, a smaller brush, to achieve that so it won't go all over. So this is me going back with a pink shade. I'm just going in between the two colors, going back and forth just to be sure the two colors marry into each other and there is no line of demarcation. And now I went ahead to clean the outer corners of her eyes just to give it a better definition and a good lift. I know I did my brows off camera. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to cut down the watch time so you don't get tired of me. So now I'm just going over everywhere, just making sure there's no part of our face without powder. So for this part, I'm just going over it with a similar shade of powder just to be sure it's well blended. And I went over our forehead as well, just all the highlighted area. So now I'm going over our face with a shade of powder. Just, I don't know if you can see the difference between the side I've touched and the one I haven't. So this is what I'm trying to achieve, just to be sure that the lighter shade of powder marries well into the other shade. So I went ahead to spray down our face with the same Morphe spray just to further set everything that I've applied so far. So for our blush, I used the pink and orange shade in the Zulu palette. And for our eye, to take it from 98 to 99%, I decided to use a beautiful pigment over that. For our highlighter, I'm using the Fenty highlighter in shade, how many carats, I think. So to outline our lips, I use the Morphe lip stain in shade Sugar Bull. It's a brown shade to achieve that. And I went ahead to just bluff out the edges with a small fluffy brush. I went ahead to use a lighter shade of pink for the inner part of our lips to achieve the ombre effect and blend it well into the brown outline to get a smooth blend. For the under eye, I went ahead to use that pink shade on our lid just for a smooth transition. To set and lock in, finish up the whole look, I used the Charlotte Tilbury hairbrush spray. all over. I cover the eyes. So to take our look from 99 to 100, I use the Maybelline lip gloss all over our lips, and look at that. Look at how plumpy and cute that looks. And tada, we are done. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please make sure to subscribe, like, leave a nice comment, and see you on my next one. Bye.